And joining us now live is another special guest, Dr. Nimesh Desai, former Director, Institute of Human Behaviors and Allied Sciences, is joining us live. Welcome and thank you for being with us today. NewsX has launched a campaign where we're inviting the most qualified medical minds to urge IMA to announce the world's largest study into the psychology of rapists. Would you be willing, sir, to extend your support to this campaign?
Sure, anytime. I am in support of the NewsX campaign for studying and preventing sexual assault and abuse in all manner possible.
Dr. Desai, how do you believe such a scientific study will actually help us in building of more accurate policies and also laws to prevent rapes and sexual assaults?
The thing is this. Such assault, abuse, rape, and especially the ones that bother us so much, quite a few instances in the last few years, unfortunately, occur in a certain context. The urbanization, the social context, the sexual frustration, but most importantly, as your campaign correctly addresses, the profile or the psychological nature of the perpetrators or the offenders. And so, to quite an extent, it's useful to study, understand that, and more importantly, apply that knowledge to prevent, which would mean, crucially, besides the rapid, swift, appropriate punishment to deter people, most important aspect of prevention would be to identify people who might have propensity or liability to indulge in such crimes and help them not to do it. Now that's where the interplay of law, judiciary, forensic sciences, psychology, mental health, all of that should converge in a study like you are thinking about, where we can identify young boys or girls or adults who have the propensity indicated by a few things that we can study, and then help those people not to get into such criminal acts.
Yes. Now, we also spoke with FPR researcher Dr. Anne Burgess, who's conducted such studies which have shown great impact in understanding the motives of criminals and develop patterns. Do you believe that they also can be roped in then, possibly?
Yes, picking up lessons from any of the international experiences and studies would be a very good idea. The fact of the matter is that the American society, unfortunately, has had a huge plethora of such events over the last few decades. Because the crimes have increased, they have had a good opportunity to study, and as a society, as science, they do study it well, document well. But let's also not forget two things. One, the American society, with all its efforts, has not really been able to put a cap on it. So they have not been actually a great successful experience. Some of the other countries, like European, especially North European countries, have succeeded better. So maybe we need to look at all international scientific evidence. Of course, just to butt in here, one aspect, totalitarian extremist societies, faith-based or political extremism-based, they succeed, like we all know. I will talk about China, we'll talk about Gulf countries, we'll talk about Singapore. But we also need to understand that in a free, democratic, multicultural society like ours, those solutions won't work. And so, like you're suggesting, FBI studies or other research from the US, Europe and Northern Europe especially, should help us. My emphasis would always be on actually being able to put into action that science research. Because let's face it, science research in itself does not serve a purpose except for fulfilling the careers of people, and many of us in science or society feeling happy about, okay, we achieved this, we did this profiling. And in fact, if I might say, that's why I am not very much for the term profiling. Because one, unless there is a consequent action at the policy and social level, that books and journal articles and papers do not lead to anything. Second, which we will discuss maybe a few minutes later, profiling also has negative social impact. So profiling is not a great idea, but like you are suggesting, like your campaign is, scientific study to understand those who commit such crimes, more importantly, those who are likely to, those who have personality profile and sexual drive which may drive them to such crimes. Identify them early, help them. That, I believe, should be the focus.
Yes. Also, Dr. Desai, in your assessment, what do you believe can be the challenges then in taking on such an assignment, and what help would be needed from the government?
first of all, government, of course, can be persuaded and will be persuaded, through media campaigns like you are doing. But alongside the government action and a little more open mind on part of the government agencies to share details, plan research with NGOs, with civil society, with science and scientific organizations, the important thing will be the social attitudes. The trouble is that we all get very, very agitated when such events happen. But if at all there was to be a campaign like you're now trying to say, okay, let's bring together people, young people, or even adults, middle-aged people who are prone to this, let's study people's behavior, then there is always a hesitation. And so, no, why should I participate? Why should my group participate? Why should my family participate? So alongside government action and media action campaigns, there will have to be change of social attitudes. And so through you and this campaign, what I'd like to urge is that we will have to now come to accept that with rapidly changing societies, these are becoming quite common, these crimes, and we all get agitated by it. We will have to have concerted action to cooperate in all such research. B, implement them. So there will have to be constructive programs for young minds which are vulnerable to this. The biggest role, if I might say here, would be of the system of, say, juvenile justice boards. Because young people, youth or young adults who have criminal mindset, who get into trouble with law, who kind of do such things and come into brush with JJB or the juvenile system, that is where the debate between reformative justice and retributive justice will have to be settled. If we want more of reformative justice, then science will have to come in, quite like your campaign is emphasizing. To punish people does not prevent too much the others from doing it. So if we can identify young people who actually can be helped to not go down that road and do constructive channelization of their energies, including sexual energies. That is what is needed.
Yes. Do you also agree with the fact then that neurology and brain mapping of rapists can help build solutions in our fight against rape in society?
Modern science, as it has evolved, and to click half a minute, from psychological testing to polygraph to now brain mapping, computer-based and AI-based, is definitely an advance. That alongside the social behavior and the psychological profile of people who are vulnerable to crimes, that is what we need. Let me flag something here. We have always said, some of us, through all these last few years of all the agitation that we all go through, from Nirbhaya to Nithari to what have you, there have always been in human race some people who are psychobiologically, genetically more vulnerable to crimes. Amongst them, a few, till now, fortunately, who are liable to violent crimes. Very violent crimes, gruesome crimes. Now, those can be identified through psychological tests, their early adolescence behavior or adulthood behavior, and some amount of science and technology. So the thing, like I said, the dilemma, and in my mind too, and I think most policymakers is, do we want to profile in a positive, constructive manner to help those boys and girls who might be indulging in such crimes, or do you just want it for research? And the answer will have to be applied research that can then lead to some action through NGOs, through juvenile justice boards, and through those systems.
Yes. Can this exercise then be performed annually, Dr. Desai, in the future, so that findings which can be made public are accurate, and they are periodically updated?
See, that's where the dilemma is. Need not be annual. There can be periodic or target group research. Those who are vulnerable, like I keep saying. The dilemma genuinely, and Americans have also documented this very well, the mental health and social science research groups besides the FBI. What happens, unfortunately, is that as you profile and identify people and say, these 6 boys or young men out of the 100, sample of 100, are more likely to do this, or people who have already committed one or two such acts, science tells us very clearly that they are likely to repeat. Now, on the one hand, you want them identified, you want to track them, you want to monitor their behavior and see that future recurrences don't happen. And if some of them on their own or with civil society help, if they want to reform, the profiling leads to more accentuated and more sharp and more negative social attitudes. So the family, the neighborhood, the prospective employers, no agency is then willing to even touch those people who have been identified and profiled. So the basic dilemma to my mind is, how do you make sure that science helps us identify people who are likely to do this and yet help them without negative attitudes? Now that's a tough call, and we in this country should really try and begin doing that. So I commend you one more time, the NewsX campaign for scientific study and, if I might add, application of those science findings for prevention of rape and assault would be very helpful.
Okay. What more suggestions can you make as far as profiling of rapists are considered?
Like we have said, see, the word profile, studying, identifying is a double-edged sword. See, they start getting ostracized, they start getting isolated, nobody is willing to deal with them, and that, one must say, scientifically has also been studied, that the more such vulnerable people get isolated and ostracized, more likely is the recurrence of their behavior. And so, to again sum that up, a scientific study which can then help society at least with a neutral mindset, but avoiding negative mindset, neutral mindset necessary, if possible positive mindset, help those persons reform themselves.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.